Good afternoon, everyone. If you can start finding a seat, that would be great. Good afternoon. If you can start finding a seat, that would be great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jerry Laney, and I'm the head of school here at Caravel Academy. Before I begin, I just want to think about the impact as I look out among the crowd, and we have such a large gathering. That says volumes about Randy Johnson. And while I was standing here watching former players, people that have been touched by Randy come by and hug and laugh, cry. It really had an impact. So I'm going to ask for a moment before we get started, because I know how many people he touched. But I would like to ask if you played for Coach Johnson in the past, currently played for him, was part of one of his teams, please stand up. People that played for Coach Johnson, please stand up. Let's give everybody here a round of applause. Thank you. And that right there speaks volumes. I don't really know if I have to say much more, but coming in today, I knew we would have a large crowd. And I have to thank a couple people. I'd like to thank all the coaching staff with Tony and Sharon and everybody who helped Keith and everybody who helped make today by setting up and making this possible so that we could celebrate the life of Randy Johnson. So thank you for all the people that helped set this up. The school board, who's always been a big part. We were back there joking about Randy always had a next big project. And he was always, Randy, he would always be coming up and he'd be grabbing me by the arm and talking to Harry and getting things. So we were talking back there. So thank you to the People's family and the school board. But when I think of Randy, I think of legend. Legend. a word that probably gets used too often. However, in the case of Randy Johnson, it's more than appropriate. Randy's a legend, both as an athlete, as a coach, as a teacher, and as a friend. Randy's also a legend who's probably the most humble legend you would ever meet. I mean, so many people in Caravel didn't even know that Randy was a wrestling state champ. They didn't know all the things that Randy did because he never bragged about himself. Randy and I would stand in the hallway before homeroom talking. And I don't think at any time in my 6 years did I ever hear Randy say something about himself. Never. We were always talking strategy. We were talking about what it takes to win. You know, the little things about make a difference in championships. And it was just great to chat about softball with him. Randy loved the secrets and the strategies of winning. He loved big games. Randy was a big game guy. His life was a big game. He loved to compete. He got so excited about the little things, the teaching points. He always kind of waved off the home runs. Yeah, they were good. Yeah, they were good. But did you see that sacrifice bunt? I mean, it was crazy. I would try to talk about, the 2-run homer that Holdsworth hit. And he would be talking about the sacrifice bunt. Or he'd be talking about the double steal. Or the person that made the catch in foul territory. Randy loved big games. He loved breaking them down. He loved how they played into his winning. And a lot of times, we'd be standing along the fence with many of you watching the game. And Randy would make a big decision. And we'd be like, you sure he wants to do that? Maybe put an 8th grader in. And we were like, what's Randy thinking? I think Randy's finally lost it, right? 7 innings later, that play worked. And we're just like, God, man, Randy's amazing. He's a guru. He can see the future in athletics. He was so good at that. I mean, that kind of explains one of the reasons he won 5 in a row with his team and has run so many state titles. Randy had the ability to get the best out of everyone. Our driver ed students who were so afraid, those ones who were shaking when they get in the car, he'd have them laughing, feeling comfortable. Next thing you know, they're zipping around the parking lot. We're giving a warning for driving too fast. Randy's impact here at Caravel goes beyond wins and losses. It goes beyond titles. One of the things that I'm going to miss the most is what our future athletes are going to miss. They're going to miss that experience of having Randy as their coach. To me, that's a tragedy. And I know we have great people. But Randy's the best coach I've ever known. Nobody lived it more than Randy Johnson. He didn't just coach, he lived it. And it's sad that our future Magic players and our future Caravel Bucks won't get to experience that feeling of Randy in the dugout with him and Randy being there for the big games. We will always remember Randy. His legacy is unmatched. Randy, don't forget to take the extra base. We will miss you, and we love you. Thank you. One thing before I introduce the next speaker. The school board, the administration, and the softball family had planned to dedicate the softball field to Randy Johnson this spring, before Randy passed. This was in the works. And we were sitting at a board meeting, and Harry was super excited. We were going to get this done, and we are going to have a big event. and then the tragedy happened. So the Randy Johnson Field dedication is still going to happen. We'll be doing a dedication. More information will come out. One of our first home games this spring. If you get a chance, though, and you go by there, take a look up. There's the sign is up. I know when I drive by, I still expect to see that baseball cap pulled down. Somebody walking around out there, 100 miles an hour, but Randy's strut. It was always unique. But the Randy Johnson Field will be dedicated this spring, but we do have the sign up. So next, I'd like to invite Wayne and Mary Lou Warren.
Good afternoon. My name is Wayne Warren, and I grew up with Randy. I'm going to give you guys a little insight about Randy before he started coaching softball. I would like to thank Caravel for this great opportunity to honor him. And as the headmaster said, one of the most remarkable people I've ever known. And he was humble, he was determined. Every word that you can think of, he's probably got his name on it. I've known Randy since I was a toddler. He was my first friend. He was my best friend growing up. We played sports together from the neighborhood to Little League to men's softball, which was good because I was Randy's probably one of his best friends. And when teams needed a good player, as you said before, Randy's very humble. He never really said a whole lot. Hey, Wayne, do you want to play on this team for this weekend? Yeah, I think I can do that. Hey, want to bring Randy with you? So I got to play on a lot of good teams because of Randy Johnson. He was the best man in Mary Lou and I's wedding. And it was never a question who that was going to be. We coached Magic softball together, and the appropriate name for his coaching ability was Magic. Any of you guys that have been in the dugout with him know that he was always thinking. Every pitch that was thrown, he was thinking about what we could do, what we needed to do, or what pitch needed to be thrown. He never fell asleep, and we used to talk about it. Baseball and softball are a game where people fall asleep. In the outfield where nothing's happening, we have a dominant pitcher. People weren't paying attention. Oh, Randy was paying attention, and he was making sure everybody else was also. Coached both my daughters in travel ball, and in 2004, we went to the Athens, Greece Olympics together to watch the Olympic softball team. Randy was like a brother to me. We both grew up on Madison Avenue in Lewis, a small, close-knit community, like it is here in Caravel. I had many conversations with him about the school and the softball program, and he always assured me that he was where he needed to be. Even though I was trying to coach him, get him to come closer back to home, it wasn't going to happen, and I understand why now. Just being around this community for the last couple of weeks, that's for sure. He was always competitive, and everything that we always did. He wouldn't play checkers without wanting to win and thinking about that game so he could do it. It was never, we're just going to play. I never played on a team with him where we were just going to play. Never happened. And we played Little League together, and his dad was our coach. This is where he got all of us from. If we won, we would pile in the back of his station wagon, and we would head to the Dairy Queen over on Los Beach. But that was only if we won. We never got a treat or a drink if we lost. Nothing said. You want to win? Work a little harder. And we got that. was an only child growing up, and there were 5 Johnson kids at their house. So I was at their house a lot. I needed playmates. Often they would find me seated at the dinner table. My mom had dinner at 4, and the Johnsons usually had dinner at 6. So I got to eat 2 meals a lot of times. So Kathy and Jay, I want to thank you for that, for letting me into your family. It was very inviting and comfortable. It was a great time growing up. The special bond that you all had, people really don't understand it. And I've got to witness it my entire life, and I understand it. But we're always talking about how good the job Randy did, and always a winner, and you never heard anything negative about it, because there really wasn't a lot. But I'm going to let you have a little story where things didn't turn out so well with Randy. We were in Assateague Island camping at the state park down there. And the ponies were coming into the campsite, and his dad was there always cooking, because he always prepared a good meal for us wherever we were. And Mr. Johnson looked at Randy and he said, "I bet you can't get on the pony. You don't challenge him, because he's going to win the challenge, except this time." Pony came in a little closer, and it was small. And I'm thinking, Randy, all right, I know I can get on this one, just for a little bit, and I'm going to show my dad that I can do it. Well, he jumped on the pony, and he came off faster than he went on. So he learned how to lose the hard way, but he didn't lose very often, that's for sure. We went to junior high and high school together, and I remember riding up to the University of Delaware when he was in the pole vaulting state championships. And his dad would talk to me all the time. I spent a lot of time with him. And on the way up, he just said, "I wish he would just concentrate and win the rest of the state championship." And I said, "Well, if he's going up there, he's not going up there to lose, Mr. Johnson. I think he's going to win." Well, he did win. And I think Mr. Johnson was happier than Randy about winning the state pole vaulting championship. So after that, we're riding back home, and he made that statement again. Well, I hope he wins the wrestling state championship. We all know how that turned out. Nothing. When I look at Randy, I see a lot of his dad and his traits. That's where all of this came from. Not just his looks, but his mannerisms, also his coaching technique, mirrored the same principles. And that was, you didn't want to let him down. And I know all the girls that stood up in here earlier, they know that. And that's how they felt about him. The motivation was, don't let him down, because he's giving everything that he has to you. Don't let him down. When my daughters were playing Little League and decided they wanted to pursue softball, they tried out for the Milford Magic travel ball team. I met Kevin Barkley, and we started coaching together. And it didn't take me long to realize that I didn't know anything about coaching girls softball. I played a lot of softball, but I didn't know anything about coaching it. And that's where Randy came in. He agreed to help us out, and he brought in some other coaches. And I see one over here right now in Gary Ridgway, and we all know about Tony Peterson. I can't say enough about those two guys. They were a big part of Delaware Magic. And because of Randy Johnson talking them into it. It's just how it worked. And that's really how you have the Magic softball program today. It was a lot of recruitment by him, and really, I don't think anybody could say no. When he came to you and asked you to do something, he could have been a salesman. I mean, he could sold his cars because no one was going to say no to him. He was never satisfied with his ability and was always trying to improve. He encouraged all the Magic coaches to attend coaching clinics, and at one particular coaching clinic in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, we went to a session led by Leah Bryan-Amico, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist in softball. After the seminar, Randy looked at me and he said, "We have to get her to come to Delaware." She's from California. Yeah, Randy, she's here because she's being paid a lot of money to do this seminar, and you're going to get her to come to Louis, Delaware. Okay. Well, after that, we know the rest of that story. He talked her into coming to Louis, Delaware, and it was an amazing experience because he wanted more than just softball. This woman was a wonderful person, and she gave that to all the girls along with her softball experience and expertise. And I think Randy saw that immediately in the seminar, and that's what attracted him to her, because there were a lot of good coaches, good people there, but he singled her out, and that's who we went to get. We were in a restaurant with Leah during this time, and she went back to Randy. Okay, Randy, if I make the Olympic team in 2004, will you come watch me play? Oh, yeah, we'll come watch you play. I'm looking at him thinking, man, that's a big undertaking there. Well, it happened. She made the team. She texted him. She said, I hope to see you in Greece. And in 2004, my family, Randy and Lucy Wilkinson, went to Greece to watch the Olympic softball games. It was an amazing experience. She introduced us to the team. We traveled with some of the parents to different islands in Greece, and we had a wonderful experience because of Leah. And it was Randy's doing who got it all started. She has a quote when she was here, and it was in our local newspaper. Randy cares so much about these girls and gives so much to him and gives much of his time to them. He's giving them the best instruction. He goes to coaching clinics around the country, the same ones my coaches go to. He is learning from the best, and these girls will succeed because of it. You girls are all proof of the benefit of Randy's efforts, both on and off the field. And I think there's no better quote, because look at the room here today, and that's a result of his efforts. And she was so right. Over the years, several people have said, it's a shame Randy didn't have any children. I would say, he had more children than all of us put together. He's affected more kids, probably in this state, softball-wise, than anyone will ever do. And I'm not slighting any of the coaches, because we've got a lot of good coaches and a lot of good people that help young girls in the sport. But nobody could give the amount of time that he put in to the softball program. And Caravel, you're very lucky. But you gave him something back, because he appreciated everything everybody did and the hard work that you girls put in. That was one thing that he didn't, he would never waver on work. And if you wanted to get better, you work a little harder. You spend a little bit more time on what you're doing. You make sure that you're the best. And ending, I just want to read a couple lyrics from a Bob Dylan song. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong, and may you stay forever young. And I think that was true. Randy Johnson, we all know that he ran around like a kid, and in practice, he went 100%. God bless him, and appreciate everyone here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Keith Holdsworth.
Good afternoon. For the past 15 years, I've had the privilege to coach with Randy Johnson here at Caravel Academy with Delaware Magic. More importantly, I've had the privilege of calling him my friend. Before I begin, as I'm standing here now, I can't help but think of a few things Randy would say and feel if he was here right now. I'll use one of his favorite words, dang, to share those thoughts. First, I think Randy would say, dang, there are a lot of people here today. After realizing that all those people were here for him, I'm pretty sure we'd have to force him to come back into the gym. He would want no part of the spotlight being on him. I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. Finally, after getting him to come back inside, he would say, dang, let's get this thing going and over with, because these girls can still get over to the warehouse and get some practice in. The last few weeks, a lot has been going through my head as to what I wanted to say about Randy, and I guess even more so, what I wish I could say if he was still here. First and foremost, I would say thank you, Randy. When I look back at how mine and my family's journey began in the world of softball in school, I can honestly say he was a spark that led us down an amazing path to success. A single phone call 15 years ago inviting our oldest daughter to join Delaware Magic began what would be a legacy of friendship and success for our entire family. I personally learned a lot from working with him together. I know my two daughters would not be where they are in life had it not been for the influence Randy had on them. More importantly, I know that so many others in this room, along with so many who could not make it here today, would not be where they are in life without the influence Randy had on them. Yes, Randy was a coach on the softball field, but the lessons he taught there carried over into everyday life. Randy taught the values of hard work, persistence, learning from mistakes, teamwork, and fully committing to something in order to accomplish your goals. With Randy, it was never really about the wins and losses on the field. The wins came in seeing the growth and development of the girls who came to his program as 12-year-olds, being shy and awkward, and then graduating, later being strong, confident young women determined to find success in the world. I admired Randy and I learned so much from him watching him over the years. Only one time did I ever see him raise his voice to a player, and that was not because of anything that occurred on the field or caused us to lose a game. The player had thrown her helmet after striking out, feeling like she had failed her team. Randy simply made it clear to her that we don't do things that way, and she would not be doing that again. That was Randy's style. He had the ability to inspire his players in a way all coaches desire. Randy leaves behind a legacy that we all need to continue. I've been all over the state with him coaching. No matter where we went, the number of former players who came to see him and support the program that he and they built always amazed me. A few years ago during a playoff game, I looked down the right field line and saw there was at least a complete roster of former players there cheering on the team. That's the result of Randy and who he was. Nowhere do you see that kind of support. Furthermore, Randy was always excited and happy to see his former players and hear what they were doing in life. The girls knew they were always welcome to come home to see Randy where he lived on the softball field. I mentioned earlier that Randy never wanted to be part of the spotlight. After he passed away, I was asked to find some of the pictures of Randy and some of the players. I always knew it was hard to pin Randy down for a picture, but now I realize how truly good he was at avoiding it. I was only able to find a handful of pictures in which he meant to be part of. Over the years, Randy's team won a lot of championships, but when it came time for someone to speak for the teams, he always did his best to have somebody else do it. When Caravel won last year's championship and all the players were on the field celebrating, I looked over and saw Randy in the dugout calmly packing up all the equipment. He wanted it to be the girls' moment. I'm thankful that Caravel named the softball field after Randy. It was always his field, and he was so excited to see it coming together this season. He was regularly sending me pictures of work. However, I'm also pretty sure Randy would say, dang, I was hoping the batting cages would be done also. A few more thoughts before I close. Randy had some other favorite sayings in addition to dang. One of his players was thoughtful enough to write them all down on a softball for him last month. I just wanted you to hear them again and hopefully bring a smile and a laugh. In no particular order. Cupcake. Nah. Come on. My personal favorite, are you a freshman? You were in detention that day? I saw that, don't cheat. Where's your shoes? And last but not least, Dodo Bird. I hope and pray that Randy fully realized the difference he made in so many people's lives. Yes, he coached the game, but he really was a coach in life. Once, not long ago, we were having a talk about a player who was thinking of coming to Caravel. I mentioned we already had 2 or 3 or 10 players who played the same position that player was looking to play. Randy was quick to remind me that it wasn't what it was about. He said she was a great kid with a great family, and that they were the type of people you wanted to be around. Well, the same can be said for Randy Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Lindsay, Caroline, and Katrina.
Hi, I'm Katrina, and this is Lindsay and Caroline. We've known Randy since we were 10, 12, me and her 12, her 10. We started out on Delaware Magic, played here at Caravel, and now we've all been coaching since we graduated college with him. We look around and we see so many faces of people who had the privilege of creating an incredibly long-lasting bond with Coach Randy starting in our formative years. And look at you all here today. From different decades and states, we are all here to celebrate such an outstanding person who has taught us so much. I think everyone here could speak to the kind of coach Randy was. I think everyone also here knows how dedicated he was, how he always saw and brought out the best in everyone, how he saw everyone's potential, how he would give up any amount of his time for his players, how he knew the game so well, how he cared about you as a person and not just a player, and how he instilled exceptional work ethic in his players. He truly taught you that if you worked hard, you could achieve anything. That's something that has truly shaped me into the person I am today, and I'm sure many of you. That nothing was ever going to be handed to you. But if you worked hard enough, you could achieve it. And if you didn't believe that, he did. I mean, he turned me into a first baseman senior year, me at 5'3", following the footsteps of Kelly Anderson, who was over 6 feet tall. So yeah, that was definitely something that he only believed could happen, but he made it happen. If you ever played for him, you know he would never focus on stats or getting the most all-state nominations, but he was always focused on working hard, getting better, and becoming the best version of yourself on and off the field. He was always first to brag about his players and staff, but not regarding stats and successes on the field, but rather their work ethic and their type of people they were. He never wanted credit for his accomplishments, like we all are going to be hearing a lot today, and never listened to the noise of people trying to discredit him or the program. He truly just wanted the best for us. If you ever spoke to him, like Coach Keith was saying, after any of his many achievements, he would always say, "I have the best players and staff in the world." Day in and day out, he put in so much time, effort, and energy into making batting cages, a better schedule, driving fields, trying to make the facility the best softball field in the entire state, which it is by far. And he was doing it for us, the players. There are not many days you drive by and not see him there at the field, and as hard as it is now that he's not here, we know what Coach Randy would say to all of us. He'd say, "Well, the ball isn't going to hit itself, Dodoberg. Get back on the tee." He would say, "You got to pick up those feet, Turtle." Or my favorite, "Connect that elbow, Cupcake." And we will, Coach Randy. We will for you. We will keep working hard and continue the legacy you built. As players and us three as coaches now, we all know that we can never get away with anything with Coach Randy. I mean, you can miss a ground ball in the JV field, and you would look over to see him at the batting cages and think, "Wow, I'm safe. He didn't see that." Then we would find you after practice asking how you missed that ball all the way over there at the JV field. But now we know that he's definitely not going to miss anything because he's watching us from the best seat in the house. So with that being said, we just want to take time to talk about the kind of man he was off the field as well. We first got to know Randy as young 4th and 6th graders who didn't even know the world of travel ball existed. He was coaching JV at Caravel at the time, while also the 12U Magic, and it turned out he needed a few more players. At some point, he approached my parents about it, and if you knew my parents back then, you'd know there were many back and forth conversations about whether it was something they wanted to get involved in. Mom didn't want to give up her family vacations, and Dad was never quick to jump into anything. But as we all know, as we've heard, it is very hard to say no to Randy. He had a way of communicating and forming relationships in which he just did what he said. As years went by, I'd see that happen with everyone, and as I got older, it was evident it was really a respect thing. Everyone respected him way too much to say no, too much to let him down, to not help, or to not be a part of something. That is exactly why so many of us have come back to coach with him or for him, and how he's kept the same coaching staff for so many years. There were many times I know I would even feel worse disappointing him than my own parents. So anyways, we give this whole travel ball thing a try, and as we began riding down to the sports at the beach with him every Wednesday after school ball practice. With a man we really didn't even know at the time, and think about that happening now, it just speaks volumes to the man that he was. We practiced, and one of our parents would meet him at the Dairy Queen in Milford so we could get back home. We didn't know it then, but these were the memories that were going to last a lifetime. We still recall first finding out and meeting his then girlfriend, and coincidentally, the country song Brand New Girlfriend came on the radio. We, as immature 10 and 12-year-olds, of course, had a kick of this and kept singing it, quite loudly and obnoxiously. Singing in the car right down was something we would regularly do. We could never get him to join in with us, but we would occasionally get the infamous nod and finger point. Years go by. Those weekly car rides to practice turned into car rides to MLB games, always with the best seats in the stadium. We'd analyze batting practice and play the dollar game. He would ride with us to travel ball tournaments even when we weren't on the Magic. He would make it to as many of our college games as his schedule would allow. And it wasn't just to see us. He'd fly to Florida in the early college season to see as many of his former players as he possibly could. Not only would he be there to support us, but oftentimes came bearing gifts of softball gloves or the newest bat to try, as well as a new drill he learned. He befriended college coaches so he could advocate for his girls during the recruiting process. He did everything he could to help anyone. Randy was more than a coach. He attended our weddings, surprise parties, and kids' birthdays. He'd come to our Easter brunches and took part in our family wiffle ball games. He'd come to our houses for 4th of July and Thanksgiving celebrations. For some reason, he thought my childhood home had a good driveway and would use it daily for driver's ed. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to that house. He was so much part of our family that he would regularly come inside to give our dog Mason some cuddles, which were probably the only cuddles Mason got at the time. As we have heard, he was quite the athlete in the day, but I can tell you from our Myrtle Beach pickup football game and 3v3 basketball games in our driveway, that man still had the moves. And he never missed out on a reed crab feast or back deck shenanigans. Randy has been a part of our lives for over 20 years. Anyone who knew us knew him. He was such a light and so fun to be around. As much of an impact as he had and will continue to have in the softball world, he had and will continue to have an even bigger impact in our personal lives. It was an honor to play for him and coach with him, but it was truly a privilege to have him as part of our family. There is not a day that will go by that we will not think of him. His memory is truly everywhere. It is at the Patriots Glen Tavern, or as he would always refer to it as Hole 19, on the greens at the golf course, reminding everybody that if it's close enough, you don't even have to put it in. My parents' garage, where we first started hitting practice when we were young, the driver's ed car that will continue to pass us by, the smell of a French vanilla coffee with hazelnut creamer from Wawa, and the softball field where his legacy will forever live on. He has left shoes that are impossible to fill, but he has instilled a love and respect for the program in all of the coaches and players that we will continue to uphold and represent. We will continue to honor him every single day. It is so evident how loved he was by so many, and he always said that he was the lucky one to be surrounded by so many great people, but we were all truly the lucky ones to have known him. Our lives are much better because of him.
And next, thank you, Shannon Timmons.
My relationship began with Randy 32 years ago. I was a 19-year-old softball player at Wesley College, where he was the tennis coach. But as we all know and have heard here today, he was just a fan of all sports. He would make our games, as many of them as he could, and stand behind home plate, same spot, every game. A friendly face for us, whether we won or lost. We would talk as often as we could, every time I'd see him on campus, about softball, what was going on with our team, for good or bad. Every time he'd show up, he'd point at me, and I'd point back. It was the, hey, I see you, and I'm here. And that continued through every driver development day, through every Caravel softball game, through every time I would coach against him, every time I broadcast for 302 Sports. He made a home here for us as broadcasters. Every time we would celebrate a championship win, which as you can see on the wall, there's many of those here, and even on that most difficult day when I arrived in the hospital in Elton. In 1999, he and I would start our coaching softball careers simultaneously, and the friendly rivalries ensued. We all know Randy was a great competitor at whatever sport he was involved with, and in addition to the sports world, we would become professional colleagues in driver's ed. We shared so many parts of our professional lives, and that just continued to strengthen our friendship. He and I would talk for hours at a time, solving all the problems of the world that we could. In every adventure I've taken in my career, I've had Randy's unwavering support along the way. He would lend an ear, offer support and ideas, stand side by side with me on a committee, offer help at our driver ed annual competition, and I knew whatever I assigned him to do would get done at a standard or above that standard, because that's who Randy was. I'll miss talking softball with him until midnight, 1, 2, or even 3 in the morning on a travel ball weekend in a hotel somewhere. We loved the game, and we share a love of that game. We'd rehash them inning by inning, play by play, pitch by pitch, for hours as students of the game. It's one of the things that I love and respect the most about Randy. With all the success that he had, he was still a student of the game, always learning, always trying to be better. And if we weren't talking softball or driver's ed, we were sharing a love of country music. He would share photos and video clips from Nashville every time he was there. I offered to buy him tickets to a Cody Johnson concert in Baltimore in March, and I simply got a picture of Riley Green's bar in Nashville, and he said, well, why not just see him in Nashville? And that's how I knew he was there again. He loved to send a text at midnight and knew that it was well past my bedtime and joked that I'd be at work the next day while he was enjoying all that Music City had to offer. Soaking up the sights and sounds and sharing it with all of his faithful friends. You know who you are. Randy took all life had to offer, whatever he was a part of, and he made it better. He made us better for knowing him, for being friends with him, for being his colleague, or for being his player. He had a remarkable way of bringing people together. We all have relationships in this room because of Randy Johnson. I've had so many full circle moments because of Randy. He was the central point of bringing so many of us together, the life of the party, and here we are again today. Joined together by a man who's touched so many lives along his journey to greatness. His softball accolades and success speak for themselves, and he would never want us to draw attention to that because that's not why he did it. Sure, it's nice to win, but he was always about the people and the relationships. He was one of the good ones. He did it right, and he was good for the game of softball. Randy had so many iconic sayings, as we've all talked about today. Dang, that's so awesome. And this one's for all the pitchers out there. She is just so good right now. But I have a favorite that'll stick with me forever. It depends. I heard it so much that I had a shirt made for him, and I had Haley Bry go give it to him after they won the 2024 championship. If you've ever coached against Randy and tried to keep a book, you know that it depends. Good luck trying to keep up with all the substitutions, pinch runners, pinch hitters. He's got a depth of 30 players on a roster, and he'd use every single one of them. Because it depends. In my new role as a broadcaster, It Depends took on a new meaning. Randy would prepare 8 to 10 different lineups for any given game. And just when I thought I would have the right one written down, the girls would start to come up to the plate in a different order. And we would scramble to catch their number and make sure we would announce the correct player's name at the plate. It got so bad I had to have Sharon start texting me the lineup just before game time, so we thought we had it right, and I learned to do it all in pencil, just because of Randy and because it depends. He would change his mind at a moment's notice when he got the opposing lineup or saw who was warming up in the dugout or in the bullpen, and to see what kids were in the dugout that day. But that is a credit to all that he has built here at Caravel. The culture, the fact that he had players to even make 10 lineups. Most of us coaches have a hard time making one, and he could make 8 to 10 of them. And that will forever be a part of his legacy here. If I can lead his players with a message, love the game the way your coach did. Give yourself to the game, and it'll get back to you and bless you in ways you cannot imagine, as it did for your coach. He will always be your coach because he is in your heart. His legacy will live on here because of the foundation he built and the relationships he forged. And yes, it depends on the opponent, the score, the inning, the next pitch, on how hard you work, on how you show up every day, your effort, your attitude, and on how you care about your teammates and your people. For 32 years, Randy's been one of my people. I'll miss him dearly, but I've been blessed to have had him on my side in my journey as a softball player, as a coach, as a teacher, and broadcaster. But the best part is that I will always and forever be honored to call him friend. I have a quote from Tony Robbins that says, "Life is a gift. It offers us the privilege and opportunity and responsibility to give something back by becoming more." And that's what Randy did for each one of us. We owe it to him and his legacy to do the same for the game he loved and for each other. Kathy and Jay, I'm so thankful to be a part of today. And this is not a goodbye to one of my best friends, but thank you, Randy, for always being there for me and touching each one of our lives.
Thank you, Shannon. Next, Kenzie Hunter and Leah Richardson.
Hi, we are Leah Richardson and Mackenzie Hunter, and we are current students and softball players here at Caravel Academy. We had the privilege to be coached by Coach Randy by our whole lives, so we're excited to talk about him today.
As you know, Coach Randy likes to be organized with his clipboards and papers, so we decided to do the same today. We wanted to thank everyone for showing up today for the ceremony of the life of Randy Johnson. We know he would say dang about everyone who showed up today. Words truly don't show and express the person that he was or how much he believed in everyone, but we wanted to speak on behalf and perspective of the young people that he had such a big impact.
To some, he was a coach, to some, he was a teacher, and to others, he was a friend, but to me and Kenzie, he acted at all of these things. He taught us how to break through adversity, how to work hard when no one's watching, and how to change perspective on things that we thought were negative. How blessed we were to be able to wake up at 7 a.m. and go to the field with him, come early, and stay after practice for more rounds on the machine or more ground balls. How blessed we are to be placed on this earth with him.
Me and Leah had the privilege to be coached by him since we were little. He showed us that no matter our size or age, if you have the heart and the work ethic, he was likely to see that.
He didn't just impact us, but everyone here today. He was a walking blessing that would point and smile at you in the hallways, always spreading kindness and happiness.
I'm sure everyone was shocked to get punched in the arm while driving, but would do anything to feel his touch again. As being students, we know that every sophomore looks forward to having the ability to drive with Coach Randy. but looking back, realizing that the conversations, stories, and Wawa runs made it more than just a driving class, instead a memory that will forever be cherished.
He always put everyone before himself, super dedicated and focused on making people the best person or player they could possibly be. Even when he didn't know what people were going through, he always found a way to make everyone feel seen and loved.
I know he is looking down on us right now, so honored to be loved by so many.
It's time to make him proud and get the 6th ring. Thank you.
Thank you, girls. That's Lacey Lister.
I gotta say, I kind of wish I would have went first because then I could just sit and cry. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's pretty incredible to see all the people here today, and I think it's just a testament to the enormous impact that one man had on so many lives. Randy certainly was one of a kind. There's no question about that. To me, he was a great friend, someone I admired as a coach. And so when Kathy asked me if I was willing to speak and say a few words about Randy, it was an easy yes. But I immediately thought, a few words? Randy wasn't a man of few words, unless it was about himself. You know, if you got on the phone with Randy, you might be on there for a little while, unless he was in Nashville or about to go into practice. And if he didn't answer, he was probably riding with his driving students, setting a great example to not be distracted while driving. I've had the pleasure of knowing Randy for the last 20 years. I don't even know, actually. I was talking earlier about how I came to know Randy, but through Larry, a great friend of his, through Margie, and just so many various people, but I've known him for a long time. And I was thankful when life comes full circle that, that my girls actually had an opportunity to come up and play under him over the last 2 years, which was really kind of cool to see him in action, not just from a perspective of being a friend, but now as a softball coach. He certainly was a character. He loved to joke and he kept things light. I loved talking softball with him and listening to all of his stories. And we could go on and on about the stories, and we would share many stories of former players. He would always ask, how are the girls doing, the girls that he would coach. He always cared deeply about them, even when they were past playing for him. He loved Nashville and country music. As a matter of fact, I got the Randy tour of Nashville just last January, and it was a great time. But you better walk fast to keep up. And we walked a lot. He was a man on a mission always. The same walk he would take toward an umpire when he had a bone to pick, and he would do it respectfully, was that same walk we used on the tour to Nashville. So we were moving. If you could just picture that in your head. I had never been there before, and his excitement to go and do and to show off Nashville was like a kid in a toy store. He always had that kid-like personality, and it never left him. I'm not sure he slept much on that trip. He wanted to pack in as much as possible and make the most of his time, kind of like his softball practice. I never got to see the Caravel Randy, but only the Magic Randy, but I hear they're very different. But I imagine there was one constant, his passion for teaching the game and every single detail of it, especially the backhand, and his unwavering support and his care for his players. There was no doubt that he loved them and that he believed in them. He saw things in his players before they could. If you were willing to work hard, Randy wouldn't give up on you. Talent wasn't the most important thing. Good people willing to work hard was. He always wanted to surround himself with good people and said numerous times, if I'm going to do this, I want to be with people that I like and people that are going to work hard. So I just want good families. Give me good families. His passion for the game and strong value of hard work had an effect on all those that were blessed enough to call him coach, colleague, and friend. What I hope is that the lessons we have all learned from him continue to live on in us in the days moving forward. Randy was special. We'll miss his finger points, that half-smile smirk, conversations over a beer, and the belief that he instilled in his players, that they were capable. And I hope all of you know that and remember that and take that with you as as you continue forward. In life, we don't always get to see the seeds that we plant grow. We don't always know the impact that we have made. Randy planted many seeds and certainly impacted many people, as evident here today. When I went to visit him in the hospital, the lady at the front desk said, we had a conversation, and she said, man, I'd really like to go and meet this guy. She said, he's clearly special. It's clear that a lot of people loved him, and he impacted a lot. And she was so right. I hope in his final days he was able to see that. But I know that he has the best seat in the house now. Watching all the country music and every softball game possible with a Wawa coffee in hand and maybe even a shot of tequila together. Dang.
Thank you. Next, Tony Peterson, or Petey, as Randy would call him.
Wow, this is pretty amazing to see a lot of people here. A lot of people new, a lot of people from years gone by. A lot of people have talked about Randy's friendship and how playing for Randy and, driver's ed, everything else. A little bit of the coach's perspective. I just got a quick little story I want to tell everybody about. Back in 2001, I met Randy thanks to Katie Clark. I don't know if she's here or not, but her and her family played Little League and travel ball for me, and they introduced me to Randy. One of our first practices, we went to, after knowing him for a little bit, he asked me to help him do some winter workouts with his Middletown high school team. And I did that, and after a short time, he asked me to help him be a volunteer coach at Middletown and also come and join Delaware Magic, which was based down in Lewis. So I said yes, I agreed. I talked to my wife, I agreed. So one of our first practices, first 2 or 3 practices in Middletown, they started at 4 o'clock, and I got home at 11 o'clock at night. And my wife was like, where have you been? I said, at the ball field, talking to Randy. Oh, okay. Well, after the 3rd, 4th, or 15th time, she finally got used to me coming home at 11 o'clock at night from 4 o'clock practices. And then, fortunately, we all got this thing called a cell phone. So most times when we had our conversations, they would only last an hour or so after everyone left the field. And then my phone would ring at 11 o'clock at night, 11:30 at night. He'd say, well, I thought you'd be sleeping. I said, well, why you call me then? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. And we would talk for a couple hours at night. Then we'd finally go to sleep. So that was sort of what the experience of coaching with Randy was. It was like, the players talk about it's hard to say no to him. But, it is what it is. And it was always enjoyable. It was late sometimes, but it was always enjoyable. So we were always there to depend on each other for each other and to depend on each other for lots of things. His driver's ed classes, some of you kids may remember me going outside with you and teaching you how to jump a battery, change a spare tire, things like that. He just wanted to waste time for his class, so I'd go out and teach him how to do things like that while I was working, so who knows. And when they went to Greece, one of my many trips to the airport, I took Randy to the airport probably 60 times in the last 5 years. And, he just always, hey, I need to go there for okay. So, but he was always there for me also. And whenever I needed something, he'd be there. So, he's a good guy. And Tom, Keith, I don't know where you guys are right now, but always poke the bear. You gotta always poke the bear because it's good for it. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Next, Haley Drago.
Hi everyone. I'm going to start my speech off with a prayer, so I ask that you all bow your heads. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for each individual gathered in this room and for getting them here safely. Lord, we are filled with so much gratitude for the man that you have given us and for the person that he was, things he did, and the impact he had on everyone both inside and outside the softball community. What an absolute blessing it is to say that we have done life with Randy Johnson. Lord, I pray that your presence captivate this room today as we celebrate the loss of a brother, teacher, coach, friend, mentor, and newly brother in Christ. Lord, I pray that you lean close to the brokenhearted, as Psalm 34:18 says. Lord, fill our hearts with the fruit of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, and transform our hearts and our minds today. I pray for the peace that surpasses all understanding over every individual in this room, and allow us to rejoice in the name. Lord, I pray these things in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Those who may not know me, my name is Haley Grigo, and I was blessed to be able to play under Coach Randy, winning 4 consecutive state titles. I was also the girl that decided she was going to crash her Jeep through the Caravel fence, where she quickly learned the difference between the gas and the brake during the summer going into her freshman year. Coach Randy was the first call we made to report my incident. When my dad called him to tell him that he took me driving around Caravel, the first question he asked was, "She hit something, didn't she?" Yes, I did. There was not a practice or a summer workout that went by without Coach Randy telling my story of the girl who crashed to the fence to everyone who walked on the field. I started Caravel in the 2nd grade, and growing up over the announcements, we would hear the recap of softball games throughout the week. Every single project in lower and middle school revolved around softball in some way. As I transformed into middle school and began playing middle school softball, I spent time after practice watching Varsity and staying on the outfield fence during their games. One day I took a picture from center field, this picture right here, of Randy and Coach P standing together during the game. That day I knew I was going to do everything in my power to play on the field for him. I will never forget, as we fast forward into my freshman year of high school, I had just finished the months of December through February, what we like to call grind season, or the process. This was the year I had been looking forward to. I worked hard in the warehouse and in the weight room to prepare to make my little girl dreams come true. I remember being so confident in my work that I decided I was going to tell him one day after practice that I was going to make it so hard for him not to want to put me on the field. And he responded with, "Well, dang." I had no clue where that bonus came from, but for the girls listening right now, be so confident in how hard you worked. Slow down and enjoy the process. It's the best part. A little quote that helps to highlight this process is that lazy people do a little work and think that they should be winning. But winners work as hard as possible and they still worry if they're not doing good enough. And we all know how much Coach Randy would say that hard work makes a difference. My freshman year, I remembered crying out to God and vividly praying and asking for one opportunity. As God does what he always does by remaining faithful, Coach Randy gave me that. I started as a freshman as a DH. My freshman year, I DH, played right field, third base, and then finished in left field. I then went on to finish the rest of my high school career as a third baseman. It never mattered to me about where I played, but who I played for. Coach Randy valued versatility, and for the young athletes here today, I encourage you to play multiple positions and know them well, because you're not always going to play where you think. One thing that Coach Randy taught me at such a young age is that when someone gives you an opportunity, you better take it and run with it. He taught me that when you work hard and you pray harder, all you need is one chance. Coach Randy had an eye for everything, and he was the one who saw what no one else could see. Where others saw limits, he saw potential, and understanding how a player could contribute in ways no one else imagined. He took the time to make every person that walked onto the field better. He had a specific plan for each player, and he always did his homework. He would show up to big games with the opposing team's lineup, knowing every single one of their strengths and weaknesses and playing to them. Coach Randy coached with intention, and he had purpose and a process for it. I do love the game of softball, but Coach Randy taught me to love the process, and that's what I do. There's something about slowing it down, working on the proper mechanics, choosing quality over quantity. He always used to say that it's important to take care of the small things so the big things will take care of themselves. There's something about the work ethic,
the drive, the motivation, the hustle, the long hours, the dirt, and the blood, sweat, and tears. There's something about being called a cupcake after you just took a ball off your throat and are gasping for air after a ground ball. Or the dang after he told you to not move your glove. He was going to put the ball right in there for you, but it pops up and nails you in the shin. The process isn't easy and it's not always fun, but it trains you and it shapes you into not just an athlete on the field, but off the diamond as well. I thank Coach Ernie for showing me this process so that I can fall in love with it year after year, over and over again. I will never be able to thank Coach Ernie enough for taking a chance on me and for turning my dreams into reality. Taking me under his dodo bird wing, for always showing up to the field for extra reps, and he never thought twice about dropping whatever he was doing to come to the field. That was definitely his happy place, but you can't forget about all of his trips to Knoxville, Tennessee. He would send me videos of famous singers, one of his favorites being Ella Langley, performing at 12 o'clock in the morning, which I thought was way past his bedtime. My freshman year of college, aka last year, at my first ever game, no one from my family was going to be able to make it. My mom made a few calls, Coach Ernie being one of them, and he was getting ready to leave for going out of town. But he quickly rescheduled and said, "That would be awesome," in all caps. He said, "Thank you for telling me." Within minutes, he called people to meet him at the field to watch me play. No matter what and no matter when, he would be there. He loved his people and would always find a way to quote-unquote figure it out. Another saying that I definitely build my life on. No matter how hard it will be, we have to figure it out. The things I would do for one more rep, and one more ground ball, and one more time getting called a cupcake or dodo bird, one more punch in the arm, one more tap on the shoulder, and one more squeeze, and honestly, one more ground ball to the shin. Coach Ernie shaped me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, into the person I am today. There is no me without Coach Ernie, and I cannot even put into words how much he meant and continues to me. There is no amount of tears that could ever explain the love, respect, and gratitude I carry. Its impact lives in everything I do. One thing for those who know Randy is that he never craved any kind of attention or celebration. He never told anyone his birthday, which I do know now. The day after winning a championship, he would simply say, "Dang, it's crazy, and it's kind of awesome." Then finish it with, "All right, let's get back at it." He didn't need to go sit there and soak it all in. He was constantly moving and looking to the next. Obviously, some of you know what I'm talking about. He always had another mission and another plan. We all watched him speed walk down the hallway or to the field with his hat and his windbreaker pants, pointing at you and nodding his head slightly to make sure you know you're seen by him. To wrap this up, I know a lot of us are filled with great sadness, and we all know Coach Ernie would say, "Go grab a bucket for all your tears." As I stand up here today, I can say that we're all going to have our moments, but I can confidently say Coach Ernie's legacy is not over. I mean, look around. Look at everyone gathered together right now. Look at the impacts he had. Each of us are different. We come from different areas or backgrounds, but each of us are here today to celebrate the man himself. I thank Coach Ernie for the connections he helped me create and for the community that we are now all a part of. Coach Ernie truly won at life, and so did we. Coaches, players, and mentors, we will continue to carry on the Randy Johnson life. We are in this process, and it will continue through all of us. And you will continue to impact the next generations to come. If there is one thing I can leave with younger girls, it's that every rep counts. Your attitude counts. Your work ethic counts. The blood, sweat, and tears matter, and they will pay off as they did for me. Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand." Coach Ernie always said, "Trust the process," and as I sit back here as a follower of Christ, I believe that was a simple way for him to say, to trust in his plan. And when I say his plan, I mean Jesus' plan, because each one of us has a specific plan crafted for us. I'm going to end with a prayer, one I will lead you through, and one I will speak over you. The first prayer is one that I talked to Coach Ernie about as I sat in the hospital in Maryland in the room with him. As I sat there, I thought to myself how hard it would be to live a life without Coach Randy in this world, but how much harder it would be to live eternal life without him. In John 3:16, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, and that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." John 14:6, Jesus says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me." I told Coach Trini that I wanted to see him again, but there was only one way to do that. If you feel led, I will walk you through the prayer that I prayed with Coach Randy, so if you would like, bow your heads again. Whisper out something like this. Lord, I come to you as a sinner in need of a Savior, and I believe Jesus Christ is your Son, and that He died on the cross and rose again so that our sins would be forgiven. Today I confess that Jesus is Lord and Savior over my life. From now forward, I will surrender my life to you. In your name I pray, amen. Now if you join me in another prayer, one that I will be praying over you. Lord, I thank you for every person gathered in this room, and I thank you for blessing us with Coach Randy, for giving us a man who cared about everyone else but himself, because that's who he is. He loved the game more than one could ever understand, but loved the friendships and relationships he created along the way even more. Lord, as we celebrate Coach Randy, I pray that you pour out any fear, anxiety, sadness, confusion, and depression, and I pray that you fill us with your peace that surpasses all understanding. Allow us to lean on the people that he gave us, and for that, because that is what Coach Randy would want. Allow us to move boldly in the next chapter. Strengthen us and equip us, for our battle is not against flesh, but against the rulers, authorities, cosmic powers of this darkness, and against evil spiritual forces. I pray that you clothe us in the full armor of God, with truth like a belt around our waist, righteousness like armor on our chests, our feet sandaled with the readiness of the gospel of peace, a shield of faith that extinguishes all flaming arrows, and the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Lord, direct our steps, and help us to live a life according to your will. Help us as we teach younger generations of the process of Randy Johnson. Help us to impact the lives of many more to come, as Coach Randy did for us. I thank you, and in your name I pray, amen. Thank you.
Next, Kendall Brown.
Hi everyone. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Kendall Brown, and I had the privilege of playing for Coach Randy for all of my high school years here at Caravel. Some of you may have known him as a friend or a colleague, maybe a neighbor or a driver instructor. However, I had the honor of knowing him in a few different aspects. I met Coach Randy for the first time when I was just a 4'0" 9-year-old living out my short-lived pitching days. Those of you who played for him know that he never cared about size or age. If he saw something in you, that was it. For whatever reason, he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. When my time came to play for him in my 8th grade year, he took a chance on me and never looked back. There were many times when I probably should have been pulled out of the lineup because of a massive slump, but he never did. Instead, he would grab my arm before I stepped in the box and say some Randy words like, "We don't need a home run right now, just hit the ball." One time in particular, I was in one of the biggest slumps I've ever been in, and I was literally fighting for my life in the box with an 0-2 count. Foul ball after foul ball, and after hitting 3 in a row off my shin, he called timeout, and as I looked on the third baseline, I found him walking up to me with the biggest grin on his face. I thought to myself, what could he possibly be smiling about right now? And when he reached me, he said, "Are you sure you don't just want to bunt?" I have no idea how that at bat ended, to be completely honest with you, but I can tell you that he thought that was way funnier than I did in that moment. Despite his terribly timed jokes and throwing up late stop signs, almost breaking my ankles countless of times as I rounded third base, Coach Randy was so much more than just an average coach. Most people misunderstand Caravel softball because it's a program where if you're not a part of it, you just don't get it. When us players hear things like opens, winter workouts, 7 a.m. workouts, or H period passes to hit off a machine before a game, we all hear one man's voice. It's a one-of-a-kind program because of a one-of-a-kind man. While I knew Coach Randy as a coach first, I quickly began to know him on a deeper level. He was a frequent golfer at my family's golf course, and to my surprise, I heard his name more there than I did anywhere else. The place was filled with people who knew and adored Randy. I heard countless stories about him and his golf buddies, and I saw him interact with his friends time and time again. I was introduced to a new friend every time I saw him there, and every one of them looked more like family to him than just another friend. Even after his passing, I still walk through the bar and hear his name being praised. not just by people who knew him personally, but also by those who knew his reputation. Whether a bartender or a tavern regular, Randy was loved by so many. He was as humble as they come. You could never find him singing his own praises or giving any credit to himself for that matter. He was never in search of an interview and was certainly never found with Gatorade being dumped on his head. Often, he made it a goal to keep us humble as well by giving us the constant reminder before every game and every practice, if we take care of ourselves and play our game, we'll be good. He was a simple man. He never needed the newest gear or facilities. He never pleaded for more money for the program, and he certainly never cared about the weather conditions. He was the best kind of coach to play for because he was a reminder as to why we started playing in the first place, simply for the love of the game. Not for 302 sports to capture our highlights as much as we love them, not for the All-State titles, not for the gear, but for bettering ourselves every day. He was the example. I may have never known Coach Randy as a driving instructor, and trust me, he never let me forget it, but that did not mean I was exempt from getting his driving advice. Everyone here has experienced the Caravel parking lots, but us players have special experiences with parallel parking next to the field. I pulled up to the field after school let out one day, probably a little overly confident, and I began the intimidating process of parallel parking. I started out fine until I realized that I had picked a spot directly behind Coach Randy's car. I made the mistake of looking to my left to find Coach Randy standing, arms crossed, next to Haley Grago, smirking and staring directly at me as I was frantically trying to park my car. At that moment, I dropped my pride, rolled down my window, and begged him to help me maneuver my car into the spot. He walked me through the steps with a steady grin on his face, and as soon as I put the car in park, that was it. I never heard the end of it for the rest of the year. I swear the man just waited for someone to need his assistance with parking, whether it was a player, a student, or an innocent parent picking up their child from school. No one was exempt from getting the help they didn't know they needed. Even at the golf course, his help was always available. A mom in a minivan, this so common and so unfortunate target. On and off the field, whether it was a Randy point from across my family's bar, or it was a Randy punch in the arm walking down the Caravel halls, I knew that he'd always be in my corner. We may not be able to find him standing, clipboard in hand, on the field anymore, but we will always find his presence in every Phillies game, every perfect parallel park job, every swish of windbreaker pants, and in every one of our hit pinches. He is in every night game, every winter workout, and a little piece of him will forever live on in every one of us. He has left his mark on this world, and he will forever be missed. Rest easy, Coach Randy.
Next, Nancy Collick and Bill Collick.
It is indeed an honor to have the privilege to come before you this afternoon to give reflections on my life and my relationship with Randy Johnson. I think Randy always thought that he was a true difference maker who had insight and vision for possibilities, not only for himself, but also for others as well. When I think of sports at Cape and Logan and athletes who have made up the teams, there have been pro baseball players, college football players, pro basketball players, Olympic field hockey players, and so on. But there's only been one who would letter in 6 sports as a senior in high school, and that one was, and still is, Randy Johnson. Not one of us do anything significant by ourselves, and I want to say that I am grateful to have had the support of Randy Johnson in my life and in my coaching. Randy and I would first cross paths in the wrestling program at Cape and Open, as he would not only win a state championship in 1977, and in doing so, he would model the proper aspects to our student body that are needed to maintain and grow a successful high school culture and climate. Thus, he would serve as an outstanding example for all of our students as for being a reliable reference and example by which to anchor oneself as they matriculate in high school. Upon graduating from high school, he would help coach wrestling at Cape Logan as well as Delaware State, and at both places we would realize success with state champion wrestlers at Cape Logan, and in 1984 winning the MEAC Conference Championship in wrestling at Delaware State. When we look upon our world today, we have witnessed centuries of nearsightedness and the lack of respect for each other. However, Randy was a pillar for humanity and dignity, never losing his focus for elements of right and wrong, while at the same time performing good deeds and respecting others. If you ever had any contact with his mother and father, I lived in Lewis and I did, it would not take long for you to understand in part why Randy was who he was. Furthermore, as it relates to his family, I've had the good fortune to have a relationship with his brother Jay and his sister Kathy. And just for a bit, I want to say something about them. Jay left here and went to Florida and worked in the trauma unit as well as working at the Mayo Clinic. And any of us that knows about the Mayo Clinic knows that you don't go to the Mayo Clinic for a handyman. You're going to the Mayo Clinic that something needs to be done right and done well. And Jay, for 30 years, did that. I reflect on Kathy and I go back to my granddaughter, and we have a neighbor across the street that has a pool. My granddaughter is standing outside on a swing set in our backyard, and then I don't see her anymore. And I look up and I see her coming from my neighbor's house. She says to me, Pop, I need to get my bathing suit. I'm going swimming. And I say, well, Ken, you can't invite yourself to swim in people's pools and whatever. She said, no, there's a nice lady that said that I could. And I get the swimsuit on, I walk up back over, and who's over there? Who's the nice lady? It's Kathy Johnson. So I wanted to say those two. Now back to Randy. Randy could simply, and all of you know this, get the best out of people, as he truly had the ability to keep people together and motivate. In athletics, we used to say that it's easier to get there than it is to stay there. But not so true with Randy, as at Caravel, his team, his coaches, and his players would win 5 state championships in a row. Unheard of. Randy also had some Bum Phillips in him. And Bum Phillips was a tremendous coach in the National Football League, and he always used to say that Bum could take his players and beat yours, and then take your players and beat his. And Randy had a little bit of that in him, a lot of it. And if you see him sometime, maybe after the game, he maybe even had won, but he would talk about a player on an opposite team that was good. So he was kind of always looking at that, and I can't say enough about that. Someone once said that there is little hope for all of us if the hearts of men and women cannot be touched by a call for something greater than themselves. Randy Johnson lived a generous life as he gave people his time while caring. And in doing so, it led to a vision for God's promise for brightest days for us all. In the bud there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until the season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future when it holds a mystery unrevealed until it's season, something God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death the resurrection, and at last a victory unrevealed until it's season, something God alone can see.
Thank you, Bill. The next, Regan Sutz.
I gotta follow that, huh? All right. Well, my name is Reagan Sutz. Long time friend of Randy's, like Wayne. Wayne thinks he stole 80% of my speech, so be short. I want to thank Kathy and Jay, of course, for allowing me to say a few words, and also thank Caravel administration for allowing us to host this wonderful event here today. So I met Randy when I was 5 years old, and he was a lot older than me. He was 6. We were at Monty Bryan's house. We were playing basketball. Wayne was probably there, right? Guy, all the guys. And our relationship started off with a lot of jealousy for the first couple of years. A lot of jealousy between us. Actually, it was just me that was jealous. Because Randy was an athlete the second he came out of the womb. Unbelievable athlete. And he apparently played baseball, Little League Baseball, with my older brothers. And they would come home and they would tell me what a fantastic catcher Randy Johnson is. Now, he could have been 4 feet, maybe 75 pounds. But he's blocking the ball at the plate. He's throwing runners out. He's digging the ball out of the dirt. He's catching foul balls. I'm thinking, this is incredible. This little guy, 1 year older than me. In 1971, Randy and I were selected for the Lewis Little League All-Star team. Guess who was the starting catcher? That's right. Yeah. Randy was playing some insignificant position like shortstop. Anybody play shortstop, right, Wayne? He could. So right then and there, I had to become a shortstop. So in junior high, when we played in junior high together, I wanted to be the shortstop. High school, I wanted to be the shortstop. College, shortstop. Now he's got a damn field named after him. How am I going to do that one? I don't know. The guy was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. And everything that everyone has said here today, it makes me realize he was such a light in so many lives. He made you feel better after a conversation with him once you walked away. I know I did. He was always motivating. He was always inspirational and trying to teach all the time. And I have to ask the question for the driver's ed teacher: when you're the passenger, do you press the brake on that side all the time? Randy, he was so critical about anyone's driving. You didn't want to drive, right? Because he would sit over there on the passenger side, and he's pushing the brake. So, what are you doing? But as Wayne alluded to, we grew up in a small town that was absolutely wonderful. It was kind of cool because in the summer, the boys would take their baseball gloves and we'd throw them on our handlebars and we'd just start heading towards town. And guess what? From where I lived on Kings Highway, the Johnson's house was right on that way. And as I said, they had 5 kids there. They actually had 8 at one time. It was a built-in gate right there. So we'd stop and we played wiffle ball, throw a frisbee, basketball, whatever it was. And we talked about Randy's abilities to coach. I've heard that so much, what a wonderful coach and friend he was. Well, his father was his very first coach. But in our little town, we also had some other wonderful coaches. I want to say some names here that some people will recognize. Phil Cunningham, fantastic guy. Wayne's dad, George Warren, was an unbelievable coach for us in Little League. Don Burton and Duffy Marshall. From that beginning, we had so many wonderful role models to start our lives and to go down a right path. And then, man, we got lucky again. Because here's a name that I may see some head shake here. In junior high, we had Dale Steele as our coach. And you talk about someone who was a role model and really cared about kids, not just athletically, but he really cared about them and the family. And then we got one up again because then we run into Bill Collins. And then we run into Dave Fredericks, Tom Lyon, Tom Hickory, Jim Alderman, Bob Cassidy. We were so blessed to have these young men at the time really help us and to help us build our character. So thank you, Bill, Mr. Singer there. Didn't know you had that in you. And Fred man, thank you for all your coaching. Randy was a little daredevil too. The whole Johnson family was daredevils. Yep. The Lewis Canal. You know where the Lewis Canal is. Well, there's a bridge there. There was an old railroad bridge. Yeah, Jay's shaking his head because I think he got injured off this bridge. But that was an easy one. They jump off the bridge. It's like, I don't know, maybe 10 yards, 10 whatever. Randy decides he's going to jump off the Theodore C. Freeman Bridge, which that goes over to the Lewis Ferry. And let me tell you, that's a scary one. So he was quite a little daredevil. And it showed in his competitiveness. And that's one thing that I really took from him and I admired about him was how competitive he was. Yes, if he was playing checkers, he wanted to win. All right. When I think of Randy and I think of different words that would kind of describe his life, I think of words such as this. Friend, brother, uncle, teacher, coach, athlete, mentor. He had integrity, he had courage, patience, respect, and resilience. And his character was built all around that from a very young beginning. And I heard this earlier today. The young ladies that had a short time period with Randy and the ladies that aren't going to have him, his character, I hope he rubbed that off on you quite a bit. Because the next Randy Johnson, he would want someone out there to take his place. Let me close with this. I love you, Randy Johnson. He was the best friend. I will forever love and cherish him. As many of you, I am looking for a new normal because life right now, for me, since I got Jay's call, has not been normal. We'll find it one day. So hold on to your friends. Make sure they know that life is precious. Love them with a full life. Love you, Dodo Bird.
Thank you, Reagan. And next, Dave Frederick.
I was sitting there so long my feet fell asleep. I was Randy's high school track coach the same year that Bill was his wrestling coach. And someone said to me, can you capture the essence of Randy Johnson? And I thought, have you ever owned a dog that played fetch but wouldn't bring it back? Capturing Randy is like capturing that dog. I think it's impossible. We heard all the good stuff, all the friendships, all that stuff about Randy. But the real stories are the ones that we tell each other when this is over. The movie Stand By Me, a classic about 12-year-old boys going off on an adventure. And at the end of the movie, one of the boys is now middle-aged and he's a writer. And he's writing about that adventure. And he's struggling to finish the story. And he writes, I never had friends like the ones I had when I was 12. He goes, Jesus, does anybody? And I thought, yep, Randy Johnson. Because his friends, when he was 12, they're here. And I'm here. Bill and I encountered Randy. Randy was 15 years old. That's 50 years ago. Those kind of numbers are scary, but they're also educational for the players, Caravel players that are in the house today, to realize that these are the most important relationships that you'll ever have. And you will carry those with you like Randy and his buddies did. Just a couple stories and then I'm out. Seriously. You're like, enough about Randy Johnson. I'm starting not to like him. Nobody's that perfect. In the 1977 year for him, it was like this amazing week. I was his track coach. So on a Thursday night, he wins the pole vault at the University of Delaware Fieldhouse. The thing about him is he's standing there with his hands on his hips, just smiling and looking at the other guys, and they're focused and they're getting upset, and he's like, whatever. And put the bar up there, and I'll see if I can clear it. And if he did, he did, and if he didn't, he didn't. So he wins the thing, like 13 feet, but he didn't really work at it. So he's like a state champ. So we're leaving out there, and he's a state champ. On a Saturday night at Cape, house lights down, 138 pounds. He's wrestling this kid from Smyrna with like no ears, one of these guys, one of those wrestler guys. And you look over at Randy, and he's all wiry, 135 pounds, looking around, talking to Coach Bill, and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be that kid. Because he's going to go capture Randy like you try to capture that dog that won't bring the ball back. But how are you going to get a glove on him? How are you going to get him on his back? All that. So Randy emerges, like, speaking of dogs, he's an underdog. He wins the match, wins the state championship. Bill's just standing there amazed. He was ready to break into a hit, I think, at that point. But I didn't know he had the red green hair. But I went over to Bill and I said, you know what Randy Johnson is? He's a knick-knacker, man. He's a knick-knacker. And Bill goes, he sure enough is, man. He sure enough is. He sure enough is the knick-knacker. And we called him the knick-knacker for the next 45 years. And as a coach, I know as a Caravel coach, a coach downstate, an assistant guy, or maybe he was a travel guy from somewhere, and he said to me, you know your boy Randy Johnson, and you know what's coming. You know something not good is coming. I said, yeah, my boy Randy Johnson, what about it? He said, he's a pain in the ass, you know that, don't you? He goes, he takes that game sideways on purpose. He does all these annoying things. He goes, and I'm like, what's your point? Your point is, yeah, I'm not surprised with that at all. So it's 9 on 10. You wish you had him at the top step in your dugout, right? Because to beat one of his teams, all the things and all the moving parts, softball was perfect for him. 2009, Cape Ann Open Girls Lacrosse was in the state final. Game in Middletown versus St. Andrews. Randy shows up with Carl Saliba, one of his boys from Lewis. because Carl's daughter was on the St. Andrews team. And I went over and I said, "What are you doing over here, Mr. 6 varsity letters, 2 state championship? I've been keeping your legacy alive in print. I work for the newspaper forever. What are you doing on the St. Andrews side?" He's like, "Well, Carl, whatever. And I said, "I'm just messing with you, man. Stay wherever." But the thing is, he chose a friend over Kate, as he should have. Right? That's where his loyalty was. Somewhere at a Caravel game in 2004, my friend Dave Robinson, it was Kate versus Caravel in the state finals. Whopper was the coach of Caravel. Caravel ended up winning the game 1-0. I wrote this story about Coach Cordery, the Vietnam vet, the flag waving, and the Caravel girls getting all excited and all loud, and it was kind of one of those harsh aftermaths of a quest that you just didn't make it. And the Caravel coach later read my story, and he said, "Damn, if I read that story, I was sorry we won." 2024, Randy Johnson and the boys from Sesame Street by the Sea walked in. I was inducted into Delaware Sports Hall of Fame, and they showed up. Of all those years and all those kids, Randy organized the van trip, and all those guys got on board. That was important to him. 2 years later, when the softball field at Cape was dedicated to Bill Cordery, Coach Timmons made that happen, but in the folding chairs on the field, not that many people were there. Randy Johnson was there to support Bill and to support the sport of softball. Last story, in 2017, the coach of Sussex Tech this year, Shannon Brown, had been in a car accident in her senior year, and it was a paralysis issue, whatever that is. Will she walk again or not? And she was at McGee Rehabilitation. I didn't know Shannon, but I heard the story, and I thought, I'm going to go see her. I got to write something different, something meaningful that will have meaning to the community. And I went and did that story. And what a great person, and what a great story. If you know anything about McGee, it's a place where magic happens. They fix people. This 2025, Shannon Brown takes a 10-7 Sussex Tech team to the final. And who do they run into? Caravel, Randy Johnson. Someone asked me, could you ever root against Shannon? I said, absolutely not. Would you ever count Randy out of any situation? I said, absolutely not. And as sports go, it's not Hollywood. It just is what it is. And sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. You just take whatever gives to you. So speaking of that Hall of Fame stuff, I think we start the ball in motion to get Randy inducted into the Delaware Sports Hall of Fame. From the time Dave Robinson nominated me until I got in was 18 years. I was passed over so many times I became a Jewish holiday. But we don't have 18 years this time because we got to get the boys in the band ready to roll again. So let's Kate Caravel collaboration. Let's get that done and let's get Randy in there. We were the guy that brings stuff in an envelope. It's like, what the hell? What you got? So what I have for Kathy is a cake letter with all the pins on it. And I have an athletic award. Yep, he's got one. And it reads, Randy Johnson, Cape's greatest athlete, lifetime member. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And I agree. Randy deserves to be in the Delaware Sports Hall of Fame, and Caravel will support that mission as well. So thank you. I want to thank everyone again, everyone who shared the story, but everyone out there has a story. Continue to share the stories of Randy Johnson. His life was magic, as someone said. And it will help all of our lives be magic. That concludes our ceremony for today. I know there are pictures and stuff that are available if you want to hang out and share some stories with friends. There's also a book if you have not had a chance to sign it. Please have a safe trip home. Thank you so much.